Hello, it's Maria Teplova here, and today we're going to be looking at an artist named Yayoi Kusama. Kusama is a contemporary artist who works a lot with patterns, particularly polka dots. She does a lot of different mediums, including fashion, film, painting, but mainly does sculptures and installations. She has a really interesting style in both the clothing she wears and in her artwork. She uses a lot of very fun, bright, and vibrant colors and repetitive patterns, which we're going to be using today for little sculptures. Kusama used a lot of polka dots, so we're going to be making polka dots in at least 3 different sizes using bright colors. You can have your polka dots in a specific pattern or placed randomly, but you probably want a combination of both. In order to make the dots, you want to find 3 different pens or pencils with differently sized tips, or you can also use a straw that you'll be dipping in acrylic paint to outline the dots on your sculpture. For my first sculpture, I chose to do something simple like a flower. You have to have a flat surface in order to make the dots come out clearly. You can do this with air dry or oven baked clay. You also want to paint the entire thing with white acrylic paint so that the colors you put on top will come out clearly. I decided I'm going to paint the entire back of my flower red. You want to use bright, fun colors just like Kusama did. Work slowly and carefully to get really sharp edges, but it's also easy to fix your mistakes with acrylic paint, so don't worry. Bright colors with paint sometimes come out kind of thin, so make sure to go back with a second or third layer if needed. I want the center of my flower to have large, light pink dots that go in a circle. So I'm going to take my largest dot stencil, which is my colored pencil, and dip the back of it in some light pink paint that I already mixed. You won't have a complete dot, but you'll have the outline of one, which you can then fill in later with your paintbrush. Since the surface of the sculpture won't be completely flat, you're going to have to twist your stencil around so that the outline of the dot prints completely on. The outlines will look a little bit rough, but once you fill it all in with paint, it's going to look much better. You can also fix the edges with your paintbrush too, just be careful. Now I'm going in with my medium-sized dot stencil, which is this pen, and I'm dipping it in the bright red paint again and putting it in the center of the pink dots. Remember to wiggle your pen around so that the entire outline comes on. Then I just fill it all in with a paintbrush. Now I want to add randomly placed black polka dots all on the front side of the flower. So I'm starting with my large dot stencil, my pencil, dipped it in black paint, and I'm putting it on various parts of the flower. After filling those in, I'm going in with my medium dot stencil, the pen, and putting even more medium dots. And finally, I'm going in with my smallest dot stencil, which is this mechanical pencil, and I don't really need to fill it in because it's so small. And I'm also adding a ring of tiny dots in the very center. Now I'm just fixing some small edges with white paint, and also remember to wipe off your stencils after you're done with them. For my second sculpture, I'm doing something a little bit more complicated, like this mushroom, and I'm covering it in white acrylic paint, and then after that dries, I'm going in with color. And remember that you still need a smooth and pretty flat surface in order to print your dots on well. Since acrylic paint dries pretty quick, remember to add another layer if needed. I painted the base of my mushroom this light yellow tan color, and I want to have rows of black polka dots, so I'm going in with my large stencil, the colored pencil, dipping it in black acrylic paint, and placing it where I want the rows to start. After filling in those polka dots, I'm continuing the rows and making more outlines, then filling them in. But the stencil you're using might not fit in certain places, so just freehand it to the best of your ability. Then I'm using my medium dot stencil and making more rows of black polka dots. I fill those in with my paintbrush, and then finally for the base I make these rows of tiny black polka dots with my smallest stencil. Halfway through I realized I wanted the bottom part of the hat of the mushroom to be white, so I went in with acrylic paint and after a couple layers painted the bottom all white. I want to cover the top part in white polka dots, so I start with my largest stencil, dip it in white paint, and make these rows that kind of mirror the pattern of the base. Remember to fill everything in with acrylic paint because just using this stencil won't be enough. Now I'm using my medium-sized stencil and making more rows of medium-sized dots. I fill those in with my paintbrush and then add a few final dots, fill them in. And to make my pattern more interesting, I decided to add smaller circles in the center of all the white ones in the color navy blue. I mix the color beforehand and then I just dip my different size stencils into it. Of course, I fill in all my marks with a paintbrush and then it's finished. Now it's your turn.